get up and dash 100 meters and I would eat up the competition. It's just non-existent. I kick my feet up. Thought I was passing till I got blasted.
Peace and blessings. Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries and have a happy new year. Today we'll be discussing a tale of two articles. Big Swole does an interview where she complains about more representation in AEW, while Big E is elated at the representation in WWE. So we got to talk about this because I know I have not looked at the internet yet, but I know this is probably going to end up being a big deal. And I want to get my 2 cents, at least on record, at least for my own sake, before I start seeing everybody else have their responses. So I'm not going to bury everybody in this kind of stuff, but I do think that it's very interesting to look at and read and absorb. So this is what AEW, what Big Swole had to say about AEW. My heart just stopped being in it as the reason why I left AEW. I felt like there were a lot of things. I told them in my exit interview, there are a lot of things that need to change. I know fans of the company don't take criticisms. Certain ones. Know this. This is somebody from the inside. The structure is a little off. It's fine to be loose, but I like to have a little bit more structure. I feel like the women shouldn't have to go through everything they went through just to get TV or get time. You signed to this big company. You should get time. All these men are getting time, but the women weren't getting anything, or you're not putting people on TV because more people are coming in. Okay, there are more people coming in, but you don't have enough product for all these people. Now you have all these people sitting around having 2 or 3 minute dart matches, and that doesn't keep me happy. Shoveling more money doesn't keep a person happy. We've seen time and time again, especially in a place where there's not enough space. There's no writers in a sense. Not everyone is comfortable writing their own things. Closed mouths don't get fed. That's exactly what that environment is. If you are shy and don't know how to write or are not creative, it's not going to work unless they want it to work for you. Outside of lack of structure, the biggest issue, which is diversity. I do not beat around the bush when it comes to diversity and my people. There is no representation truly. And when there is, it is not come across in the black community as genuine at all. I don't know why everybody is so afraid to accept it or say it, but it's not a good look. What happens is you have this wonderful company that treats people like family, but there is nobody that looks like me that is represented at the top and in the room with them. They are not helping to necessarily influence decisions, but to explain why certain slang and certain words shouldn't be said. There is no one else who can explain our culture and experience except for us. I knew something was up when my daughter, who loves watching wrestling, she would watch AEW all the time and seldomly watch WWE. She's not a big fan unless Dad, Cedric Alexander, was on TV, which stopped happening after they botched the Hurt Business. She would say, Mommy, there is nobody that looks like me on AEW. There is no one that looks like Daddy. Then she started watching WWE because she saw Bianca and Big E. She saw herself represented. If that wasn't a click, you are absolutely right. I don't have an explanation. It's 2021. Why are people saying it'll take 3 years for AEW to have a black champ? This is a scripted sport. It should not take that long if you have been watching WWE for 50 plus years and you know what not to do. I believe that the company is making better strides than before, but a couple of things need to be fixed. You have to be able to call people out because not everything is perfect. I hope they listen to this with an open heart and not just, she's just saying this because of XYZ. I genuinely want them to succeed. I love this art form. I love wrestling. I want it to succeed. And I want people in it if they are genuine people. I want WWE to succeed. I want wrestling to flourish, and I don't want it to be a long-forgotten Tartarian sport where, quote, in the old days we used to wrestle, and it's folklore. I want nothing but the best. But I also want the change and application to happen. With promises you made to be diverse, I want to see that. Not just with black people. I want to see it with Latino or Hispanics or Asians. I feel like Asians and Indians do not get the love. They just don't. It's such a big gap. I hate the fact that I turn on TV and it's the same stuff over and over again. Hopefully they get the message. Me leaving, honestly, was not bad. There is no bad blood between TK and I. I just don't like my peace being disrupted. I didn't like certain things, and other things I will take to my grave. Their diversity. That's what matters. So, there's a lot of stuff in here that I find to be bizarre. Whenever somebody uses the woke kid, I am always suspicious of the woke kid. There's no one who looks like me on TV, daddy. There's no one who looks like me on TV, mommy. I'm always suspicious of the woke child. Whenever somebody brings out the woke child, I typically tune out. But we knew this was going to happen. She was the first person to leave, and the complaints are starting to roll in. Of course, this is all stuff that people outside of AEW has already been saying, that non-whites don't get enough opportunities. I know a lot of people are probably on the counter with my Jade Cargill, my Brandy Rhodes, and yes, while that is true that Jade Cargill is being pushed, she's not a regular on television though. Neither is Red Velvet, and neither is Brandy. And everybody hates Brandy anyway. Just because she's black doesn't mean she's any good. All right. So we have this situation going on in AEW, and the woke wrestlers within the company are starting to grumble. And she left for that reason. And I think that's I don't know whether it's a good reason or not. I don't know. I'll leave that up to y'all. I've already said my piece on this whole thing about all of the woke scolding going on in wrestling. I'm kind of tired of it personally. But, I mean, some people have these issues. It is what it is. Now, here's what Big E had to say about WWE. Big E, we're in a boom period for black men and women in wrestling. He says to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, which is a woke rag, by the way. I think right now is just a great time for black men and women in our industry. We're in a boom period because there is so much talent who are very good and happen to be black, whether it's Bianca Belair, Sasha Banks, or Bobby Lashley, who I won the title from. A couple of years ago, it was Kofi Kingston, my partner of 7 years with New Day. They are richly deserving from what I've seen. When you talk about inclusion or diversity, I think it's important you're not just putting people of color in these positions merely because they are people of color. When you look at Bianca, Sasha, and Bobby, they're all talented and unique, and they just happen to be black. For sure, when you have a sea of black talent, gay and lesbian talent from all these different backgrounds, when you're not the only one, you don't have to speak for everyone. I'm proud to be a black man in this industry, but I don't have to be everything for all black people. I can just be myself. Now, think about what he just said. That last sentence, I actually love that last sentence, but I also wanted to talk about, you have to think about it like a pyramid. He builded it up, from the hierarchy. He started wide and then he narrowed, right? He talked about there being a wash of black talent and there being so many black talent now that he doesn't feel like he has to represent all black people anymore. Now he can be an individual. So what Big Swole is talking about is a lack of representation. A lack of unique black representation in AEW. What Big E is talking about is that there is a wealth of black talent in WWE. There's so much black talent and they're so unique that they don't really have to represent black Americans anymore. They can just be themselves. I can tell you one thing, as an individualist, that makes more sense to me than whatever the hell Big Swole was talking about. There is no black person who can speak for me. Now, I'm sorry. Martin Luther King doesn't speak for me. Malcolm X doesn't speak for me. They don't speak for me. I did a good job of learning on my own. Sometimes I'll flub things. I'll make mistakes. But it's all done honestly. It's not done with me trying to speak on behalf of anybody else. And I think that's the best way most people live. That's how all people live. And I've been reading a lot about a lot of different things, man, and a lot of different people, and you realize that what Big E is saying makes a lot of sense. That sometimes, if you are the only one, you feel like you do have to represent. You do feel like you can't be yourself. You have to be the model citizen. And it's very odd. But at the same time, they are aware. You know, they want to be themselves, but they also understand that when they got to a certain level, they were the only ones in that spot. But now that there are others that have come in, they feel like they can be more of themselves. And I get that. I just don't feel like you should ever have to take on the responsibility. If there's 13 million black people in the United States, man, how could you possibly be a representative of those people? Even the folks who are paid representatives don't represent everybody. You know, I'm from Detroit. I have a lot in common with other people from Detroit. But East Side Detroit and West Side Detroit are two different subcultures. You know, so two black dudes from Detroit will have very different understandings of the world, and depending on where they came from. You know, I have two brothers. You know, I'm 6 years older than my baby brother, 5 years older than my little brother. So that's technically two different generations. I helped raise them. We have different tastes in music. We definitely went to different schools, even though we stayed on the same side of town. We have the same parents, same DNA, but we're different people. You know, that's the thing that makes people unique. That's really what gets people into things, is they meet somebody, regardless of skin color, who they can relate to and whom they like. Just because they say the same skin color or the same household or whatever doesn't guarantee that these people are going to be quote unquote authentic. And this is the problem that Big Swole is talking about. Oh, there is no authentic black voices in AEW. It's like, sweetheart, what are you talking about? Brandy is not going to be the representative of any other black woman. She can only be Brandy. Why are you heaping so much responsibility on her? That's unfair. It's completely unfair to just because you were born with certain skin color, you were born with a responsibility to represent everybody who has your same skin color. I'm sorry, that doesn't work. That's stupid. You know, that's way too much responsibility for one person. And that's why you see a lot of these people, they end up cracking up. You know, they end up basically going into a purity spiral and ruining their own lives and opportunities and stuff like that, because they're trying to be everything for everybody. You can't be everything for everybody. You can only be yourself. You can only be yourself. Now, I don't want to give WWE too much credit. There was a couple of weeks ago an article where the lack of diversity was actually challenged in WWE. So here is where I think his name is Jeet Rama. That's his name. Jeet Rama was one of the wrestlers that was released during the mass releases of WWE. He's an Indian. Here's what he had to say. WWE is a business at the end of the day. I can't tell them to make business decisions around me. They are doing what they think is right from a business perspective. But why is it that you take any Indian wrestler, why are they always the heels? Why are we only presented as villains? Why do they have to behave in such a manner that the audience there insults them and boos them? My soul couldn't come to peace with the fact that I was making money by misrepresenting my country. When I wrestled at a WWE live event a few years ago in Delhi, I saw that the Indian audience was booing Jinder Mahal. Isn't there something seriously wrong if your home audience isn't cheering for Jinder Mahal? At some level, we as Indians have to compromise when we go to WWE. This is a weakness I want to eliminate. Of course, he doesn't work there anymore, so there's nothing he can do. But him speaking out. Now, the reason I didn't talk about this before is mainly because WWE did an entire show called the Superstar Spectacle, which featured babyface Indian wrestlers, and he was on that show as a babyface Indian wrestler that was wrestling AJ Styles. Jeet Rama, when he did appear in WWE, he was a babyface. I don't remember Jeet Rama ever being a heel. Now, he wasn't there that long, but he was under contract for a little while. Now, the reason I didn't talk about this is because the great Khali, who was a national hero in India, had a WWE run as a villain and as a face. You know, now when he was the world champion, he was a heel. That was due mostly to his size, not to him being Indian. Okay, now, to me, but I feel like it is fair to bring this up here. that while Big E is talking about how glorious it is for black wrestlers, it can be a little bit different. We know that Andrade has said something about the Hispanics, that WWE doesn't have room for more Hispanics. This has been another thing that what was the guy's name? Sin Cara. Let's just call him Sin Cara. I didn't want to call him Sin Cara because, he gets on my nerves, but Sin Cara has also mentioned that WWE doesn't really do well with the Hispanics, even though, maybe true, maybe not true. It is what it is. There have been quite a few Hispanic WWE champions, depending on what you mean by Hispanic. Because, Pedro Morales was champion in the 60s, or not 60s, but 70s. Then you had Rey Mysterio, you had Eddie Guerrero, you had Alberto Del Rio. But, of course, Alberto Del Rio is kind of on the outs with everybody right now. Now, there aren't currently any young, up-and-coming Latino stars in WWE, which is a problem. I will say that. It's only a problem because you would think that it's a huge market that they're missing out on, and it's a huge market that supports the show. As far as people who actually watch the show, a lot of them are black and Latino, and you don't have a Latino star. Well, you do, because Damian Priest is Puerto Rican. I forgot about that. So you have Damian Priest. He's 38 though, so who knows how much longer he's going to be around. But that's when we get into this whole diversity thing. It's a never-ending spiral. Gail Kim, who I believe is Korean, has talked about the Asians in WWE. That WWE doesn't know what to do with the Asians. They just make them tag team partners, which of course, they do. Jacket Time is a tag team right now. The Kabuki Warriors was a great tag team. It was a fun thing that worked out for everybody, to be quite honest, because there's going to be a huge language barrier. But we've seen a lot of this diversity, representation, spiraling going on. I just really wanted to focus, on the black part, because while there have been people who have been barking at this AEW tree for a long time, saying that AEW doesn't have proper representation of black people and all this kind of stuff, my thing is, which black people do you want represented? Who? I don't see anybody on any roster that Bobby Lashley can speak for me sometimes, because, the Hurt Business was dope. I really like that. And Big Swole was not wrong when she said they botched it. I mean, that's universal. Everybody knows that. But we're in a position where if you try to be everything for everybody, you're going to alienate people. I mean, do we really want every black wrestler in some sort of Nation of Domination, or some type of Black Panther type of gimmick, because that's what, some people think is authentic blackness? It's not, by the way. But that's what some people think it is because that's what they were told in the media. No. Do we need black people dancing and, covering themselves in baby oil and throwing pancakes? No. Does everybody have to be some sort of ripoff of Muhammad Ali or Mike Tyson? No. But we can have a little bit of everything. We can just ask people, hey, what do you like? What do you want to do? What kind of person are you? What were your influences? There is some awesome shit that, people don't really get into in wrestling because they try to either do the crime time thing or they try to do the nerd thing. They don't go into and you do have that with Bad News Brown. He was a real judoka. In today's, they probably would make him try to do a Jim Kelly style, Bruce Leroy style gimmick. I love Show Nuff. Who doesn't love Show Nuff from The Last Dragon? You would think that black people who grew up in black culture and you're in a wrestling gimmick, that would be the first thing I would go for is Show Nuff. That would be the first thing I would go for. But to me, that's when you really have something fun with black people, is when you go back and you look at old rap videos. And then you had stuff like Wu-Tang Clan that was very gritty and it was very dark. And it had kung fu stuff, and it was very kung fu style, and it had its own style to it. But then you go out west, and it'd be a little bit more different. And then you will have Busta Rhymes, and it'd be very louder, more cartoonish. And he would do the loud show enough parts of his music videos, or he would have like the fisheye lens. He would do like the him and Missy Elliott doing very unique video styles. And then you have the very next video would be DMX, who was boots and jeans, and that's really the breadth of the black experience. You really want to represent. You just open the doors for a lot of people to do a lot of different things. This is the closest to what Biggie is talking about. And I think that's the best way you can do it. If AEW, it'd be easy for me to laugh at that, but I already know. I said it before. This is something that they created for themselves when they decided they wanted to be the woke wrestling company. I think that sometimes what people want is for you to be everything for everybody, and you can't. To go back to Jeet Rama's point, Jinder Mahal was a heel, Sure, we never really got around to, for some reason, Jinder Mahal has never worked babyface as far as I know. But that's Jinder Mahal. You can always have an Indian babyface if we can, it's just a matter of, can we get one? Is one available? Can one be made? Can one stick around long enough to get to that point? If Jinder Mahal is the only one on the roster with any with any staying power, then sure, he's going to be the only one. And if he's a heel, then he's a heel. It is what it is. I'm pretty sure Germans thought the same thing. Why do Germans always have to be heels? It's like, because you're evil bastards. I'm kidding. But the diversity thing, it's a trap. It's a trap. But I just thought this would be a fun video to talk about. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.
MagMongoSlade. Best house I ever drew, daddy.